Fall camp is finally here for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ryan Day came out after practice to talk to the media, let them know a little bit of what's going on. If you want to, you can watch that raw footage here on the Buckeye Huddle channel, or I'm going to give you the questions that were asked since they're a little bit harder to hear in the background, and then also give you some of my analysis after the fact. This is the Buckeye Huddle podcast. Thank you for listening and watching. Check us out over at buckeyehuddle.com. Me, Mark Givler, Kevin Noon, Connor Smith, TJ Warner, and the entire crew over there on the message board. Check it out and see what buckeyehuddle.com has to offer. All right, first question here. There are about 10 questions asked, and the first one was about Legend Bay, who was not at practice. Let's go ahead and see what Ryan Day had to say.
Yeah, he won't practice the first couple of days. A little violation of team rules, so he's learning, but he'll be back on the field soon.
We'll go to Stefan on the right.
Violation of team rules for Legend Bay. Doesn't sound anything related. Sounds like it was purely disciplinary related. Unfortunately for Legend Bay, as most people know who follow the program closely, he did experience a number change back in spring practice. Legend Bay is the player with the highly explosive ability that was flipped late from Tennessee. There's a lot of drama. His mom didn't want him to leave Tennessee, but he wanted to go, and so there's a whole lot going on there. But anyway, Legend Bay, not at practice. Sounds like this is nothing that's super serious, but basically we'll continue to watch Legend Bay this season. We'll see how much he touches the ball, how much he's on the field. I think Ohio State wants to get him on the field a lot. That explosive ability, them wanting to be more explosive. Offense. He was a player in high school that had all kinds of stats and all kinds of abilities. He played quarterback. He was so elusive. So Legend Bay, you definitely want to see him on the field this season, but good to see that Ryan Day and the staff, even if something sounds like it was probably minor, they are sticking to the rules and really making sure these guys stick to it, which is not totally uncommon going into this season. I kind of felt like there may have been something like this that happens, not necessarily with a certain player, but with so many new transfers and so many new players and so many guys leaving, we're going to have the culture be tested a little bit. And if we know anything about Ryan Day, he truly, truly values the culture, and he's not going to let people get away with things no matter how good they are. So we'll see what Legend Bay can turn it into this season. Next question here. Ryan Day was asked, what did Day see from Chris Henry Jr. and Brock Boyd during the summer, and could they contribute this season? Here's what Ryan Day had to say.
Well, everybody's playing now. The whole redshirt idea, doesn't it really exist moving forward? So first off, everybody in the program should have the idea that they're fighting for positions, fighting for playing time, want to get on the field. I think those guys in particular are really fighting hard. I think they can see it. We saw enough in them in the spring to lead us to believe that they can help us this year. The question is how early and how much, and that's what preseason is going to be about.
There you go. Brock Boyd and Chris Henry Jr. We'll see how much they can contribute this season. Obviously, the wide receiver position, a pretty spread out room. You could see quite a bit of rotation from them this season. We'll see how it works out for Ryan Day and the wide receivers. Cortez Hankton going to be putting a lot of emphasis on yards after the question about that here later on, so I won't talk about that too much, but it is going to be interesting to see how much. And there is no redshirt rule anymore in college football, so it's all 5 for 5 years to play years. So they're going to be able to put these guys in as much as they want. We won't have to see Brock Boyd to see if he has to redshirt and then play in the playoffs or anything like that. I think there's going to be a ton of rotation in the wide receiver room this season. A lot of Jeremiah Smith as usual, but you'll probably see a good healthy amount of Brandon Ennis and then Kyle Parker, who kind of seems to be the number 3 wide receiver right now. But Brock Boyd, other guys in that wide receiver room are going to have every opportunity to be able to go after that position and see if they can find a spot as well. All right, next question here. Ryan Day was asked about Austin Siereveld working at right guard and how does he fit into the offensive line competition. Of course, Austin Siereveld played left tackle last season. A lot of hype for Ian Moore to possibly play left tackle this season. Not surprised to see this, but let's see what Ryan Day has to say.
Yeah, we're going to try a couple different combinations. Today we did 2 spots, so sort of just, scarlet and gray, not really 1s and 2s. We are going to look at him playing tackle, as you saw last year, also look at him playing guard. And I think, when you look at Josh Padilla, when you look at Ian Moore, when you look at Phil Daniels, finding the best 5 is what we're going to do. But part of that 5 is knowing that Austin can play both guard and tackle. So he spent a lot of time at tackle here most recently. So we thought we wanted to get him some guard reps, see how he felt in there, see how he looked. It's been a little while. So, but we'll see how it goes. And it's going to be really good competition. Good news is we have some different options, but we got to find the best 5.
Find the best 5, see who's going to be out there. Austin Siereveld at the guard position, which we knew this would happen. We had a good idea. This isn't a downgrade as in like Austin Siereveld last season. This is just the hope that somebody who is more of a prototypical left tackle and Ian Moore can possibly come in there and be that position change for you. Now, I think a lot of this rests on Ian Moore, how good he can be this season and if he can take that left tackle position. But if it doesn't work out, the nice thing is that you do have Josh Paducah right guard for you, and Austin Siereveld could move back to left tackle. Or if that doesn't work out and Ian Moore is good, but maybe say Phillip Daniels isn't doing well enough at right tackle, you could put Padilla in there at right guard and Austin Siereveld tackle. This is a great problem to have for Ohio State. I wouldn't even call it a problem. You have a guy who can play multiple positions. You have multiple other players who can play as long as they stay injury free. And then if you do have injuries that happen later on in the season, looks like Ryan Day and the staff learned from when Josh Simmons got hurt and Donovan Jackson had to play out there at left tackle, and the opportunity for Austin to go out there and do that is a good one if so needed. All right, next question: how can the coaching staff evaluate yards after catchers are not tackling? Let's see what Ryan Day had to say about that one.
Like how do you identify it in practice? Yeah, it's when you're not tackling, it's hard. When you're not thudding, like today, it was just a helmets practice. It's even harder. It's a huge emphasis. We spent a lot of time on it. Cortez has spent a lot of time on it. Has some very strong thoughts on it. So we got to work it every day in practice, the drills, and then see it carry over to the teamwork. But once we get the pads on, we'll have a better idea. And certainly when we start tackling, we'll have hopefully we'll see those drills translate to production.
Big thing for Ohio State this season. If you're going to be more explosive, you need more yards after the catch. It's not just, looking at the tackling and stuff like that, but you also need to look at how is Julian Sayin delivering the ball? Is it on time? Is it in the right spot for the receivers to be able to get upfield, do these things? And also, are the receivers creating enough separation? So Ryan Day wants to give away too much in that answer, but I do think that there is going to, even when they're not tackling, even when they're not super, full contact and stuff like that, you should be able to see that. And as Ryan Day said, they will be able to learn more once tackling happens, once studying happens, and things like that, obviously. But you are going to be able to get a little bit of a glimpse of that in the practice beforehand, and we'll see, in the come out scrimmages and stuff like that when we hear about those, how that happens. Ryan, about the progression of Isaiah West made entering fall camp. A lot of talk about the running backs and Isaiah West, his possibility this season. Bo Jackson, obviously, with a huge opportunity, but Isaiah West, Jacoby Johnson, Legend Bay, as well as we just talked about him. Going to be a lot of opportunities for the running backs this year. Let's see what Ryan Day had to say about West.
Yeah, well, first off, you can see his body. You can see the work he's put in. Had a tremendous offseason. One of the best in the whole building. Consistency, and when he was in there last year, he showed some real good things. So we want him to take the next step, just as we do Bo. But just Isaiah, 1 year in the program. By the way, when you have the injury like he had, sometimes it takes a year or two to get back into it. We're seeing him look the best physically he's looked, and so that's exciting. But again, same thing, just day one.
Just day one for Isaiah West. We'll see what he looks like to go through, or at least we'll hear about what he looks like continuing to go through, as Ohio State will not have media members at practice every day, but there would definitely be some opportunities to see that. I think this confirms, Ryan Day talking about this and talking about the offseason that Isaiah West had, that you are going to see a good amount of running back rotation this season, not just with Bo Jackson, an explosive player like Legend Bay, but also guys like Isaiah West. I could see Isaiah West being a little bit more of kind of the Quinshon Judge a little bit, maybe not starting like he did, but having a little bit of that reliable runner, maybe gets them the ball in some situations and things like that. That was not something that Bo Jackson did a ton of last year. And Bo Jackson, if he can really, let it go and really get out there and run in front of the defenders, you can see Bo Jackson being an explosive player this season as well. But Isaiah West, I think, is going to be somebody they rely upon, kind of that short yardage back a little bit, and maybe just like the reliability back. Jacoby Johnson, we'll see what he looks like. He's a seventh-year senior type of guy, but overall, this is going to be very interesting to see how the running back room comes together. After that, he was asked about how Devin McCuin, the transfer wide receiver, developed, and can he win a significant role in the receiver rotation. More about receivers and Devin McCuin. Here we go.
No, it is, and the same thing. I tell a lot of the guys, like, you want to have credibility here. You want to win. One, you play special teams. Two, you attach yourself to Mick in the weight room. He's had a great offseason. You can see his body's changed. He's earned a lot of respect. Got recognized for that. With what he did this summer. So now he's got to go put it on the field. I thought he was consistent in the spring, but now he's got to take a huge step here, because that position, as we know, is going to be critical. And we saw what happened last year. We saw, obviously the attention that Jeremiah is going to get and Brandon's going to get. So that position is really going to be an important part of our offense. And Devin certainly has put himself in a position to be that guy, but now he's got to compete for it and win the job.
Got to see if he wins the job. I'm going to be very interested to see how Devin McCuin progresses and what kind of role he has in this offense. I think we know Brandon Inniss is going to be, a very likely wide receiver too, but Devin McCuin might enter that fold as well, especially with the offseason that Ryan Day was very high on, believed he had. And Devin McCuin is somebody that is going to be for you. He's going to be able to stretch the field. And he's going to give you more of that explosive play type of ability. We haven't really talked about him enough, I don't think, because we do need to kind of see a little bit more from him at the power conference level instead of the G6 that he was at down before coming to Ohio State. But definitely somebody, sounds like there was a whole lot of improvement there. Sounds like there's a whole lot of opportunity there for him to play this season and make an impact for the Buckeyes. Last question, sorry. Got 4 more questions. Next one was on Dominic Kelly, or Dom Kelly, as Ryan Day and the coaches sometimes call him. Why was Dom Kelly receiving work at outside corner, and how open is the cornerback position? Very interesting question. Jermaine Matthews Jr. and Devin Sanchez, your 2 projected cornerback 1 and cornerback 2. As we know, right, Tim Walton did want to do more of a rotation this season. That was something that that was talked about with Aaron Scott, but Aaron Scott wanted more of the starting role, so he moves on to Oregon, and now you bring in a guy like Dom Kelly, who does seem to be some of that like Aaron Scott replacement type of guy. He has the length. He's not the same player that Aaron Scott is, but he is definitely somebody that's going to be able to play outside for you. If Dom Kelly does good enough, I would not be surprised to see Jermaine Matthews Jr. play a little bit slot corner this season and see Dom Kelly on the outside, or at the very least just see the rotation. So it's going to be very interesting what happens season, but let's hear from Ryan Day.
Yeah, we're just rolling guys right now, but we want to. It is a competition, and we want guys to compete. And a lot of guys have earned the right to do that. So now's the time we're going to re-rolling these guys, and then these reps accumulate. We evaluate the reps and see where it goes. And we've seen certain competitions be over in a week. We've seen competitions last all the way up until game week. But we need to find, what that combination is going to be there. And do we feel like we have 2 corners that we can just play all the time? Do we feel like there's 3 that we can rotate? How does that play into the nickel position? Those are all parts of what we need to solve here in the next couple of weeks.
There you go. So Ryan Day confirming that, what happens on the outside corner spot will kind of affect the nickel position and how that gets fit. This is an extremely deep Ohio. You're going to see a lot of rotation this. And the nice part is that pretty early on, you should be able to find out who can handle being in the biggest spots at the end of the season. You didn't get that as much last year because of the schedule, but this year you have one of the toughest schedules in Ohio State football history. You're going to have an opportunity to play some really good teams, be in close games at the end of the game, and see what your best, players are to have out there, whether it's at the end of the game, the start of the game, whatever it might be. And everything's going to have to be earned. Just like Ryan Day said, everything's going to have to be earned here. These are not meaningless reps. You have to even earn to be in the competition. Sounds like Dom Kelly has earned the opportunity to be there, and this is just great news for the Buckeyes about how deep this team is and position battles, everything. Day 1 of camp, things will solidify as they get more into it, but at least from everything they've seen from Dom Kelly so far, seems like he's earned the opportunity to be able to compete for the position. Next up, Ryan Day was asked about possibly the most important thing going into the season, the kicking game. Let's see what Ryan Day says about Connor Hawkins, Dalton Riggs, and the kicking game.
Well, first off, the kicking game in general, special teams are a huge part of what we do and just our foundation of how we teach fundamental football. So everybody's involved with those meetings. The kicking game in particular, with the battery, Dalton is new, but he's really getting a good feel with Joey. So in the punting game, their snap to kick operation, I think Joey's taken a next step, but we got to build depth there as well. So that's been good, and then getting a feel for Dalton as a long snapper, what he can do. But then in the field goal kicking game, to your point, every single snap matters. I mean, we're chasing small margins, so we'll quickly get into situations here, and that's everybody, so that everybody can feel how important that is. It's one thing to go out and kick 7 field goals, and then at the end say, all right, this one counts, type of thing, and we all got to run 10 laps or do 25 up downs if he misses it, but he's already kicked 7 in a row. It's not realistic. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to create situations like, put a certain time on the clock, ball's around midfield. Okay, we're going to play this out. Offense needs a field goal, and then put him in that situation where he doesn't have a bunch of field goals to warm. It's like being at the driving range. You don't get to go to the driving range, when you're on the back nine. So that's what we'll try to do, and see how he responds to the different environments. We'll look to see, how the wind, the weather. Hopefully, we get different variations of that during the preseason to get a feel for his range and how he can handle it.
Big stuff from Connor Hawkins this offseason or this fall camp to see what he can do. Jaden Fielding obviously missed some kicks for Ohio State that were pretty important for him last year. I don't think all of them were game, kicking decisions or anything like that, but definitely would have helped the Buckeyes if he made some of those. And so for Ryan Day and Ohio State, and I do think that there was some of the snapping last season that maybe made Ryan Day and Ohio State this with maybe not being totally happy with that. They went out and they got Dalton Riggs, and I know, per talk is not the stuff that people are going to click on the most in college football media, so I'll keep it short. But they think Dalton Riggs is the best long snapper in the nation. The way he delivers them, is able to get it out right way to him. Kickers love the laces a certain way, and so Dalton Riggs is somebody that's going to be able to do that for the Buckeyes. So Connor Hawkins, but also Dalton Riggs, we'll see what they look like this year. Second last question, then we have one more short one. This is probably the longest one. Which position group or competitions deserve more attention in camp? Let's see what Ryan Day has to say.
Well, I think we all want to see how the offensive line shakes out here. That's for sure. I think the tight end room is an interesting room. I think that we do have some depth there, but who's actually going to take the majority of those reps and be guys we can count on? That third, fourth, fifth, sixth wide receiver position. I think the running back position is very unique, and we have in the room, we have some talent, we have a little bit of experience, but if we're going to get to where we need to go, when we've made major runs here, our running backs have run really well here. You look what Zeke did. Obviously, you look what Travion did. You look what Quinshawn did. Like in those games, I mean, they take over, and that's what we're going to need out of that room. So offensively, I would say those are the things we're looking at. Also, backup quarterback position, critical. Certainly, we all going to talk about Julian, but we need to have depth in that room as well. So those guys got to step up. And then on defense, how the back end shakes out in terms of depth there, and then seeing how it all comes together up front are all the things we're looking at.
There you go, Ryan Day. I mean, he's basically giving you all the most important ones there. I wouldn't say this is a ranking by any means, but just to recap: offense, tight end repetitions, 3rd through 6th wide receiver position, running back rotation, backup quarterback, depth in the back end of the defense, and then the defense front comes together. Those are the main ones that Ryan Day noted. Very interesting for us to think about as well. We'll see what goes on. Very last question, a little bit of a shorter one here. Ryan Day was asked, does the beginning of fall camp still feel different when players and coaches already spend so much time working out together during the summer? Last answer here. We'll see what he says.
It definitely is different than it used to be. I remember, back when I played, you showed up with your Bucs fan and you met your roommate for the first time, and, camp started the next day, and it's like either you show up, well, you had a conditioning test before. We used to have conditioning tests. You either made conditioning test or you came back every morning to you made conditioning test. It's just nothing like that anymore. There's just such a lead up with the workouts and everything that we do. But anytime you put the helmets on, anytime you start going against each other, it's completely different. And, we get a chance yesterday to get together, talk about our goals, talk about the vision for the team, talk about our identity, talk about where we want to go. It kind of gives us a focus on football. I think physically we look as good as we have. I think we have the talent, but now we got to go play.
Physically look as good as they have. They have the talent. Now they got to go play. Very good stuff from Ryan Day for the very first press conference 2026 college football season. Ohio State Buckeyes. After every we'll come back here. We'll have more to talk about. We'll kind of do some takeaways and stuff. But for this very first one, with how short the press conference was, wanted to give you each answer, kind of the questions that were asked and stuff like that. So we will see you back here next time on the Buckeye Huddle podcast, Sunday through Thursday, 7 p.m. We're going to try to have some other people on who are at practice and stuff, things like that, and talk through those things. So be checked in here with us at the Buckeye Huddle podcast. I'm John Rhodes here with BuckeyeHuddle.com, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.